controlled, and for whom obesity is written in their genes. A world where the constant desire for food overwhelms every other sense. This is the world of Prader-Willi syndrome, a rare and incurable genetic disorder best known for its insatiable appetite. People with the condition stare down the barrel of morbid obesity and an early death. So why is the only drug which can help being withheld from the vast majority of the 150 New Zealanders with Prader-Willi? 4 families from around New Zealand are allowing us to follow their lives over a period of a year. These are ordinary people under extraordinary pressure from an insatiable hunger.
I didn't say food neither.
11-year-old Northland boy Darcy Harris can't stop thinking about food.
Ice what?
Ice cream?
No, I didn't even say ice cream.
Yeah, stuff it out.
No.
Darcy was born with Prader-Willi syndrome, or PWS.
You're not listening.
The condition has many effects, but the most obvious is that he is always hungry. His mother Kathleen must watch him like a hawk.
Get out of the fridge, I can see you in the fridge. Leave that here, leave it. Get out or you'll go to bed with no tea. Do you think you do bad things? What do you do?
Steal food.
Pardon?
Steal food.
Steal food.
Darcy's desire to obtain food at any cost means all of the Harris family's food is kept under lock and key. When they forget, Darcy will always manage to sneak food.
Cody, is the freezer locked? Yeah. Thank you. There have been several times where Darcy's been into the freezer, helped himself to a whole 2 litre of ice cream, raw mince, raw sausages. He'll just eat himself to death. Not a race, Darcy, just slow down.
New Zealand doctors first began diagnosing Prader-Willi syndrome in the late 1980s, when genetic testing became possible. The disorder affects just 1 in 20,000 people.
As you can see, this is her length, and this
Auckland specialist Dr. Paul Hoffman is a leading authority on PWS.
These are children and teenagers and adults who always feel hungry, and if you can imagine always feeling hungry and never feeling full. You have an overwhelming desire to eat food. You have this insatiable appetite which doesn't go away.
Deep within our brain, there is a small gland with an important job. The hypothalamus controls body functions like appetite and temperature. And it is faulty in people with PWS. Instead of releasing hormones telling Darcy he's full, it always tells him he's starving, no matter how much he eats.
They have no ability to stop eating. It's not their fault. It's not something they can control.
Slowly. His hand's quicker than the eye. If you're not watching your own food, you can guarantee he would have stolen it right from under you. When you feel hungry, what does your body feel like? What's your tummy telling you?
Stop eating.
Pardon?
Stop eating.
Start eating. You need to eat all the time? All the time. So what's your tummy doing now then?
Waiting.
It's waiting.
This will be a big year for Darcy. He's struggling to cope at school, and the extra burden he places on his teachers could mean his days at mainstream schooling are numbered. 22-year-old Francie Thornton has PWS. She's determined to be independent, and this part-time job is an important step along the way. But even here, she's accompanied by a caregiver who helps her control her compulsion to eat. Francie lives in sheltered housing and is supervised 24 hours a day by a roster of caregivers.
I'm quite independent. I can do a lot of things on my own, do housework on my own. 90% of the time I'm happy. The other percentage of that is I am sometimes sad. But yeah, that's life.
Come on, Santa.
Christmas marks an important milestone for Francie. She's determined to make the year ahead one in which she loses weight, if she can keep away from temptation.
We all raise our glasses to Francis.
Who's in the kitchen? If Francie finds food here or at her own place that she's not allowed to have, that isn't part of her diet, she finds it and eats it. Whose fault is that? It's not her fault.
Hanging around
And cutting up the rest of the meat for the dog.
Francie's father Nick supports her desire to live an independent life, despite the weight gain which has accompanied the new freedom.
It has worried me, but at the end of the day, we're more happy that she is a happier person. So having a few extra kilos on, if that's the price you pay for being happy rather than forcing her to be thin, then we accept that for what it is.
I want to stop.
But without careful management, people with PWS become morbidly obese and risk an early death. Francie must make big changes in the year ahead if she's to have a chance at long life.
And you, me.
We're going to get rid of the old you
Yeah.
and have a new one.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that?
I want to get down to at your size.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah.
People with PWS spend their lives fighting weight gain. But in a cruel irony, they are born incredibly small and struggle to thrive. When Francie was born in 1984, the condition was not well known in New Zealand. Linda only found out about PWS from an article in a 1987 Australian Woman's Weekly.
So I took the magazine along to the professor of paediatrics in Wellington at the time, and he looked at me as though I was the one that needed diagnosing. In fact, I got a diagnosis from him as an over-anxious mother.
What have we got cooking in the pot? Egg.
Nowadays, Prader-Willi syndrome is picked up much earlier. Even before birth, there can be signs that all is not well.
Salad. No, get out of the fridge. Definitely different from the previous pregnancies. He was growing okay, but didn't notice a hell of a lot of movement during pregnancy. He was born in Whangarei Hospital by C-section, so it was quite a shock to see a very small 3-pound baby, and very limp. He wasn't moving at all. I couldn't bond with him. He just didn't feel like mine at all.
Baby Darcy's limpness, known as hypertonia or low muscle tone, is common to children born with PWS.
The defining characteristics of Prader-Willi syndrome in the first 2 years are really those of a child who has low tone, who feeds poorly, generally fails to thrive. They do not achieve the developmental milestones. They sit late, they walk late, they talk late.
I thought that there was some drug or some operation that could fix things, you know. Oh, it's all right, we can fix this, you know, but there isn't. What are you doing in there? Get out of the fridge.
Although most physical signs of the condition are obvious from birth, the insatiable appetite which defines PWS doesn't appear until after year 3.
Get out of the fridge.
For Darcy, the hunger arrived on his 4th birthday.
He was crawling everywhere quite slowly, and all of a sudden he just stood up and walked to the table and helped himself to the table. Maybe? Even though he was this small, skinny child, from that day on you can guarantee he started to put on weight.
They'll eat a range of foods that you and I would consider abhorrent. Butter, sometimes with the paper on, will include foraging and rubbish bins. It just reflects the degree of hunger that they have.
But hunger is only half of the problem. Despite Darcy's strict diet, at 65 kilos, he is much heavier than most children his height. This is because his metabolism is much slower than that of other children. It's just another challenge placed in his way by Prader-Willi syndrome. Though compelled to eat more than his friends, Darcy burns calories at a much slower rate.
Our metabolic rate, the way we burn energy when we're just resting there, is to a large degree determined by the amount of muscle we have. So if we have less muscle, we actually utilise or burn less energy. So these kids not only are eating more, they're actually burning